Hi, I am super grateful and excited to be here today to share with you about the Healer Medicine Woman archetype. This is an archetype that is very near and dear to my heart, as this is my primary goddess archetype. It is the one that I have most resonated with for my entire life. And so as I share it with you, just tune in and notice what really resonates with you already naturally through my goddess archetype quiz that I have available on my website, which is a free quiz to identify your primary archetype. And also your secondary, if you want to do it a second time and answer all the questions the other way you could have answered them. In that, at least in my community, most of the people resonated to this particular archetype. And I feel like there are more and more of this archetype really coming online right now. So whether you have identified with it for your entire lifetime or you feel like it's something that's waking up in you, just notice that. Notice what resonates, notice what lands and feels good to you, and notice what you might want to activate. If you're here listening to this, there's something intriguing about it to you. So there's something here for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of, or sort of the background information of the archetype, and then I'll go into some specific ways that you can activate it for yourself to really get the benefit from it. Because we can, as I've mentioned before in some of my other videos, we can activate any of the archetypes within us. We have the power and the presence to do that. The energy of them is a universal field of consciousness and something that can be accessed by anyone and developed if that is where your interest lies. And so with the Healer Medicine Woman, this is really resonant with someone who feels very comfortable in nature, loves to spend a lot of time in nature, loves plants, loves animals, is really connected to witchiness, even if you don't identify it by that word. You might be interested in herbalism, midwifery, crystal healing, stones in general, anything connected to the earth that you will find yourself attracted to it. And also very able to communicate with it, whether you know that you're doing that or not. A lot of times this stuff will feel very second nature, and so you may not really recognize what you're doing, whereas somebody who doesn't resonate with this archetype as much might be like, you're totally communicating with this, or you're totally healing this. The Healer Medicine Woman is also somebody who people go to for advice and go to for comfort, right? It's a very nurturing archetype. We'll talk a little bit about where that can get you into trouble. The Healer Medicine Woman is very intuitive. She may identify with shamanistic types of healing. She is in touch with moon cycles. She is a natural energy healer. So you might feel, even if you don't do energy work, you might notice that maybe you have hot hands, or that at certain times your hands might get really hot. You might feel energy moving through them sometimes. These are all things that are very common to this archetype. For example, I didn't know for years why I always had really hot hands. It was more embarrassing whenever a boyfriend wanted to hold my hand and they were like clammy and hot. And then once I started working with energy healing, I was like, oh, this is why. And so you, if you resonate with this archetype, there will come a time when you will feel called to step into it in a greater capacity. That doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be your profession, but I know a lot of people who really resonate with this archetype, who basically pursue some sort of, healing modality, or they learn more about it, and they use that within their family. They might use herbs in their family, and you have crystals all over their home, and there's just something that that can be brought into and integrated into your everyday life without it being a career choice. So know that, with any of these archetypes, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be doing that thing. It just means that these things are possibilities for you in whatever capacity aligns with you. The wounds of this archetype, a primary one is the witch wound. And I actually have a witch wound video that is up on my channel that you can check out if you would like more in-depth information about that. And I have a witch wound healing that I did with my dear friend and colleague, Ina Lucas, that is a super powerful healing for this, and it is free, and I will make sure that the link for that is in the description section here. I highly recommend that if you identify this. So witch wound is something that happens because of the fear of persecution that over the course of our soul's lifetime, so from lifetimes past, and on the soul level, and then also through the ancestral lineage of persecution, in this lifetime, even though we're living in a very different time and witches are not burned at the stake, they're not thrown into cells and left to starve, they're not hunted down, right? These things, well, I mean, they don't happen nearly as much, right? Okay, it's very rare now, but the fear of it is still very, very alive on a cellular level for a lot of people. This is something I have had to really work with in my lifetime in order to come out as a healer and in order to become more visible as a healer. There are a lot of people that I've worked with who also have felt this, who really get activated by the word witch, who are have their third eyes are very constricted, and it's hard for them to tap into their psychicness, even though they know they're intuitive. There's a real fear there. There's a fear of pursuing any of these modalities for fear of being found out. And so you can, determine to some extent whether this wound is alive within you by just really tuning into it and asking yourself questions such as, how would it feel to pursue this a healing modality? How do I feel about that? What would happen if other people knew? What would happen if I had to tell my family about it? I mean, I know personally and from so many people I worked with that even the fear of telling family members can be overwhelming because this wound is so strong. And so really recognizing that this is a real thing and being very compassionate with yourself. This can be a hard archetype to activate because of this particular wound, because it is very deep. Ancestrally, we all likely have people in our lineage who were persecuted or who lived in fear of persecution, and that has been passed down cellularly. And on a soul level, a lot of people who are coming into, who are incarnating right now, are coming in to be healers, because the world could really benefit from it right now, coming in to be healers. And so they have done these things in past lifetimes, and so the wound gets activated for healing. And then the other thing that is really important about the potential wounding around this archetype is that the healer medicine woman is an over-giver a lot of the time. She may struggle with boundaries, very similar to the mother archetype. She may nurture, give at the expense of herself, and this is something that she has to be very aware of, and she has to make sure that she takes the time to nurture herself and care for her own needs first. Some goddesses who are aligned with this archetype are Ishel, Isis, Hecate, Artemis, Bridget, Hygeia, Bonadea. These are all, and there are many, that's just a little sampling, but they all have their own flavor too with them, right? Like Isis is also very much aligned with the mystic archetype. Hecate is very aligned with the dark goddess archetype. So there's a lot of crossover as well. And you'll see there's a lot of flavors, right? Bridget is like a real earthy healer medicine woman type. If this really appeals to you, take a little bit of time to explore some of the different goddesses and work with the one that feels really aligned with you, that feels really, in your bones aligned with you. And something about working with goddesses is that you will feel it, you will notice it. Okay, so I want to share a little bit about some ways that you can activate this archetype within you if this is something that you're interested in. And I love that as I started to talk about it, my hands totally turn on. I was about to say, pick up a healing modality if you haven't already, and if you have already, continue to work with it or even deepen the practice if you can. That could be like one very simple, affordable, accessible healing modality is Reiki. That is how I started. It is how so many people I know started. It's like a gateway. It's like a gateway drug for the healing modalities. It's just really easy to learn. Again, super affordable and super accessible. And you can start doing it immediately after like, a weekend or even a couple hour class. You can use it. There's 3 different levels. Well, actually now there are many, many levels, but in the traditional original way that it was kind of set up, there were 3 levels. And you can, start using it on yourself and on your family. I started using it for self-healing because I needed to self-heal so badly when I found it. Spirit was like, here, lady, learn this. And then I really realized that it resonated so strongly with me. I mean, I remembered then, like, even when I was a little girl, I really wanted to be a doctor, but then doctoring in the way that it is in our society now didn't end up appealing to me as I got older. But it was like one of those things that was like, oh, it's always there. And so learn the modality, play around with it, see what happens, and explore other things too. So if you start with Reiki, for example, start using crystals while you're doing it and see how that resonates with you. Or start learning a little bit about herbs or, natural tinctures or, anything that works with natural healing elements is something that will activate this archetype within you. Tune into let me let me back up a little bit. I'll get to that one in a second. Let me go to this tip because it sort of, builds on the last one. Get to know your body. Get to know what is going on in your body. Listen to it. Take time with it. Allow it to share with you. The body is always communicating with you. An ache, a pain, a symptom is a way that your body says to you, hey, there's something going on here that I want you to look at. And as you spend more time connecting into that and really listening deeply, you're going to start to understand how you interact with the energy field, the emotional field, as you start to notice, oh, you know what? Every time I get angry, I feel it over here. Or every time I, am experiencing grief, I feel like there's a ball in my chest that I can't move, right? Whatever it might be, as you pay more attention to it and as you drop into it and intuitively communicate with it, that is also going to awaken that natural healing capacity within you. And you'll start finding that you'll get ideas. You'll be like, oh, maybe I should reach out to a massage therapist. Maybe I should find an energy healer. Oh, you know what? I bet that if I went to a naturopath, they would know how to help me with this, right? So there's a lot of ways that you will start to intuit what your body needs just through that act of paying attention. That archetype will wake up. And then the other one I want to talk about is spending time in the natural world and doing the same thing in the natural world that I just suggested for your body. So in the natural world, communicating with the plants and the animals and the soil and the moon, really putting your hands on the tree and feeling the energy field of the tree, putting your hands on the earth and feeling the pulse of the earth. Putting your hands on plants or around plants and feeling the energetic frequency of the plant. Doing that with crystals, with rocks, with, going to the river and sitting on the river rocks and putting your hands on them and lying back on them and like really taking in the natural world in that way. I think you will be amazed at how much information, especially if this archetype is strong within you naturally, you'll get a lot very quickly. But even if it's not, even if you feel like you're struggling, stick with it if you're interested in this, because you will get there. It is, sometimes we have to get over limiting beliefs. Sometimes we have to get over the witch wound. If you were somebody who was persecuted and killed for using herbal remedies, it might be hard for you to hear communication from plants, for example, right? And so, but as you go through it, like really tune in to what is going on here and asking yourself those questions and feeling the energy of just about anything you can get your hands literally on in the natural world, right? Tuning into the vibration and the frequencies of them. And providing healing when you feel like something could benefit from healing. So if your dog or your cat's feeling a little droopy, you know, put your hands on them, you know, and just see what happens. Because you don't even have to be attuned to a modality to have healing in your hands, right? This is something that has been available to us. It's more than anything else. It's an intention and a knowingness that Source will channel through you. What I do like about Reiki is that it is a very clean energy field, and so it you can't really go wrong with it. So I don't want to scare you away. Like putting your hands on the animals or on the plant to give it some healing is a great idea and a great way to work with it. If you're going to go much further with it, I just recommend learning a modality so that you can learn about, you know, clean energy, congested energy, not so great energy, you know, I don't want to scare you, but you just want to have like a very clear understanding of what you're working with. And then I want to talk just briefly too about tools to nurture, a couple tools to nurture yourself. Because if you do resonate with this modality, you will really benefit from high levels of self-care. And self-care for this particular archetype, some of the best self-care you can give yourself is spending time in nature. Nature is like the best restorative energy for your particular archetype, for your energy body, for what you can benefit. I mean, everyone benefits from nature. We were meant to be more in contact with nature than we are these days. This archetype in particular is very nourished, is very refueled by it. And so I highly recommend that when you, even before you feel depleted, spending time in nature so that you don't get so depleted. But if you notice yourself being depleted, get out into nature. Put your bare feet on the earth. Touch some trees, lean or lie back on a river stone, right? Like do things that put you as close to nature as you possibly can and allow yourself to receive. So lots of self-care, with that being an integral part of self-care. And then, you know, most importantly, to do your own healing work and to really prioritize yourself. This is an archetype that really needs a lot of self-nurturance, self-care, self-nourishment, self-disciplining when you're not giving yourself enough of that. Like I said earlier, this is an archetype that tends to place the welfare of others above her own. And so it is of vital importance that you begin to tune into how you might be doing that and make the changes necessary, heal wounds of codependency, anything that comes up. Use whatever healing modality you are starting to work with, Reiki, crystal healing, you know, herbal healing, whatever it is, use that modality or those modalities to start on yourself, right? And really taking that time to be present, wholly present to yourself and all that your body is asking of you and sharing for you. So that's the healer archetype. If you have any questions or anything you want to share, does this resonate? Does it not resonate? Is there something that I missed or that you would like me to address in another video? Please share any and all of that in the comments here. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already so that you won't miss my videos. And I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.